Hey, bait. An ear in the harvest whose top reaches the standing corn. If it is reaped with the standing ears, it belongs to the owner, and if not, it belongs to the poor. If an ear of leket became mixed up in the heap, he takes mice from one ear and he gives it to him. If Eliezer said, how can this poor person exchange something which has not come into his possession? Rather, he transfers to the poor person ownership of the entire heap, and he takes mice from one ear and gives it to him. One may not roll with a tofek, so says Reb Meir, and the sages permit because it is possible. If a householder was traveling from one place to another and was in need of taking leket, shikacha, pay, or maisa ani, he may take, and when he returns home, he must pay. So says Rebbe Eliezer. But the Chachamim say if he was a poor person at that, he was a poor person at that time. Okay.
Okay, Machlif im ha'aniyim. So if a guy has given the aniyim in his field have taken leket or whatever, and I'm not even going to ask why he wants to do this, but he decides that he wants to swap his produce with the aniyim. So all we're trying to do is establish principles over here. B'shelo patur, so whatever he receives from the aniyim is still patur from Trumas and Masros because they receive
Mm-hmm.
it as natanas
Received it. Right.
and it was patur. But b'shel aniyim chayev, and whatever he gives to the aniyim is still chayev in Trumas and Masros. So he before he gives it to them, he has to take Trumas and Masros off. So if he wants a fair exchange, right, he's got to give matukan to replace matukan. Okay. Shnayim shekiblu es hasadeh ba'arisos. So two aniyim are arisim, right? The aris, just to remind you, is a sharecropper,
Sharecropper, right.
right? And they receive they are paid for their work on the field by getting a percentage of the harvest. Okay, so now one of the things that we have as a rule of sharecroppers is that well, they're getting a percentage of what comes out of the crop, but that is also liable to Trumas and Masros. Okay, so let's say it's a Maser Ani year, and he's a poor man. He doesn't have any other food, so he qualifies as an Ani. So maybe he's going to keep the Maser Ani for himself, and there's a rule that you're not allowed to do that. If you're the sharecropper, you have to give the Maser Ani to somebody else. But here, what have we got? We've got two sharecroppers who are looking across at each other while they're busy taking chumas and masters from their shares. So each one of them can say, "Oh, look, I mean, I'm an ani, you're an ani. Yeah, I'll give you my share as maser ani, and you give me your share as maser ani," and that is 100% legit. Okay, they can do a little trick like that. The only thing that the Chazal were trying to prevent is ani just giving to themselves and thereby not actually giving Maser ani. Okay, Hamakabel. So here comes a general rule which we're going to see broken down into some interesting points. Makabel sadeh liktzor. So again, if somebody receives a field in Ba'arisut as a sharecropper. Asur beleket shecho peo maser ani. So your general rule is that the sharecropper himself is not allowed to touch the matanas laniyim of the part of the field that he's responsible for. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's his part of the field, and he has to give it to other aniyim. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Emasai. So Rabbi Yehuda comes to clarify when is this? Bizman shekibel nimenu lemechza leshlish or levirli. That's if he's receiving a percentage. Aval im amar lo shlish ma she'ata kotzer shelach. Um, Now, a subtle difference over here. That if he is receiving like the standard sharecropper agreement, that means that as soon as he has harvested it, it becomes his. Okay. However, if he says shlish ma she'ata kotzer shelach, meaning you don't get possession of it until after the harvest is completed. Okay. Mutar beleket of a shich of a pear. So then, in that case, he's not getting ownership of any percentage of this as he's busy harvesting. It all belongs to the Bala Sadeh, and the Bala Sadeh has just given him a promise that I'll give you a gift at the end. I'll give you payment at the end. Okay. So then he is still an ani. He's not actually a sharecropper. He's just getting a percentage at the end, not he's not taking ownership as he's busy harvesting, and therefore he is allowed to take the matanas ani and the lekachich and paya, but maser ani. But the maser ani only happens once he's taken possession. So then he takes out Master Ani, and he's got to and it's of his produce, so he has to give it to a different Ani.
But so he has, at the end, he still has to take Masa Ani. Yeah,
He has to take Master Ani and give it to a different person.
it's a different person, right?
Yeah. And it could be, as we said at the beginning of the Mishnah, that they've got two guys who decide to do each other a favor.
Uh-huh.
And that would be legit. Okay. Vav. Hamocher es sadehu. So if a person sells his field and he is and he is and he sells it now he's an ani himself, okay. A mocher mutar, the seller is mutar to take. He's allowed to take all the matanas aniyim because it's not his field anymore. But lokech asur, but the person who bought it is asur. Now this is even in the in Eretz Yisrael, where ultimately in the Yovel it's going to revert to his possession, but it's not his field right now, and therefore he is mutar to take the matanas there. Lo yiskor adam es hapolim al manas sheyilaktu beno acharav. So here is the situation where somebody might decide to do a deal as a worker, okay. That the worker says, "Listen, I want to work in your field," and the Baal Hasadeh says, "This is going to be your pay," and the guy says, "That's not worth it to me. You're not paying me enough." And the Baal Hasadeh says, "Okay, tell you what, let your son come behind you, and I'll let your son come behind you, and he can pick up the thing before all the other aniyim, and that'll be in lieu of extra pay for you." He says, "Okay, but that's not a fair judgment because." First of all, that's giving unfair preference to the son, and second of all, and he's reducing the wages on behalf of something that is due to all aniyim. So that is not a fair agreement. So he's not allowed to make such an agreement. Lo yeskor adam es hapolim al manas shilaktu beno acharav. Mi she'enu maniach es ha'aniyim lilkot. And if somebody does not allow aniyim to gather, or shehu maniach es echad ve'echad lo, or he permits some aniyim but not other aniyim, or shehu mesayea es echad mehem, or he helps one of the aniyim to get an unfair advantage. Harei ze gozel es aniyim. That is considered stealing from the aniyim. Al ze ne'emar al taseg gevul olim. So it says quotes from Mishlei. Gevul olim. There's a whole bunch of drasha over here about olim as al tikre olam ela olim. So it's an allusion to those who have fallen on hard times. So olim yordim. So the yordim versus the olim. So you want them to come back up, but it's a bit, it's a drasha. It's a drasha.
Okay.
It's not like an explicit thing, but nonetheless, it's considered a very severe violation to prevent aniyim from getting what is duly theirs. Okay. Mishnah Zayin. Okay, so we're now on the subject of shikha, what is forgotten in the field. Now, who has to forget it in order for it to become proper shikha that the poor are entitled to? So what happens if the Baal Hasadeh is overseeing all of the workers, and the workers are going through, and shekachu poalim, the workers forgot about a certain sheaf, but the Baal Hasadeh was busy watching it, and he's saying, "Guys, you forgot one over there." Lo shechacho Baal Habayis, so shechacho Baal Habayis, or alternatively, the Baal Habayis was reading a book and he forgot about it, and he was just like kind of every now and then looking up to see what was going on, and he didn't notice that one sheaf, but the workers remembered it. Okay, in all of these cases, we're going to see that this is all still belongs to the Baal Hasadeh. Or also, amdu aniyim b'fanav. The aniyim decided they're going to pull a little stunt, and they stand in front of it and start whistling, doing their own stuff just to sort of block it from vision with their bodies. Or shechipur b'kash, or they threw some stubble over the thing so that the workers wouldn't notice. Arei ze eno shikha. That is not considered shikha. Shikha is only when everyone, all of the owners, the owner and all of his workers have forgotten about it, and where there was no deliberate ploy by the aniyim to try and conceal it. It's only when it's like genuine, like, whoops, we made a mistake. That's when it becomes shikha. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Base cut. If Rob has reaped half of it and he reaped half of it and he gives pay from what he reaped, if he reaped half of it and he sold half of it, the purchasers give pay for the whole. If he reaped half of it and he consecrated half of it, the person who redeems it from the treasurer gives pay for the whole. The rectangles of produce between the olives, Beit Shammai says pay from each one, but Beis Hillel says from one for all. And they admit that if the tops of the rows are mixed, that he gives pay from one for all. And if a person checkers his field and left moist stalks, Rabbi Akiva says he gives payah from each one, and the Chachamim say from one for all. And the Chachamim agree with Rabbi Akiva that if a person sows dill or mustard in 3 places, he gives payah for each one. Okay.
Uktzin.
Okay. Uktzin. We have base Gimel. Regarding a pomegranate or watermelon, a portion of which is rotten, that portion does not combine. If the fruit is complete on either side and rotten in the middle, it does not combine. The pitum of a pomegranate combines, but its nates does not combine. Reb Eliezer says even the mastrik is tahor. All peels contract tumah and convey tumah and combine. Reb Yehuda says there are 3 peels on an onion. The innermost peel, whether it is whole or perforated, combines. The middle peel, if it is whole, it combines, but if it is perforated, it does not combine. And the outermost peel, in either case, is tahor. Regarding one who cuts a food in order to cook it, even though he did not complete the cut, it is not a connection. But if he cut it in order to preserve it or to overcook it or to place it on the table, it is considered a connection. If he began to separate the sections, the food with which he began to separate is not considered a connection. Regarding walnuts, one braided together, or onions that one bunched together, these are a connection. And if he began to take them apart in the case of walnuts or to peel them in the case of onions, it is not a connection. And the shells of walnuts and almonds are connections until one crushes them. Okay.
Yep. Big boss.
The dollar olive. If one placed vessels under a pipe, whether large vessels or small vessels, even dungware or stoneware or mudware, they disqualify a mikvah. Whether one placed them or forgot them, according to the words of Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel declares the tahor when he forgot them. If Rameya said if they were counted in Beis Shammai, outnumbered Beis Hillel, Rameya said they were counted in Beis Shammai, outnumbered Beis Hillel. However, they agree that if you forgot them in a courtyard, it is tahor. Rabbi Yossi says the dispute still stands in its place. If one placed a board under a pipe, it has a rim, it disqualifies a mikvah. If not, it does not disqualify a mikvah. If, however, he stood it upright to rinse it off, then in either case, it does not qualify a mikvah. Okay. And
no, you want Gimel, yeah.
One more. Yeah. If one hollowed out a cavity in a pipe to receive gravel, in a case that it is wood, it disqualifies a mikvah, whatever the size of a cavity. But in the case of an earthenware, it disqualifies a mikvah where the size of the cavity is 1 mivius. Rabbi Yossi says also in the case of earthenware, it disqualifies a mikvah, whatever the size of the cavity, and they spoke of a rivas oni concerning broken vessels of earthenware. If the gravel in it was loose, it disqualifies a mikvah. If earth fell in and was pressed down, the mikvah is still in it. A pipe which is narrow at both ends and wide in the middle does not disqualify a mikvah because it was not made to receive.
Okay.
And Caleb. Okay, Aleph Gimel. Above them is one who cohabitates with a nida, in that he transfers tumah to a bed that is beneath him like that which is above. Above them is the discharge of a zav, his spittle, his semen, his urine, and the menstrual blood of a nida, in that they transmit tumah via contact and is being carried. Above them is a merkavim, in that it transmits tumah from beneath a placed rock, and above a merkav is a mishkav, where contact is equal to being carried.
Above a mishkav is a zav, and that zav creates a mishkav, and the mishkav does not create a mishkav. Above the zav is a zava, in that she transmits truma to any man who cohabitate with her. Above the zava is a mitzvah, in that he transmits truma via entry into a covered area. Above the mitzvah is a bowl the size of a barley grain, in that it transmits a truma of 7 days. More stringent than all of them is the corpse, in that it transmits truma via an ohel, a means to which all the others do not transmit truma. The 10 levels of truma emanate from a person. The mechusta korporim is forbidden with regard to kodesh, but it's permitted with regard to truma and maisa. If he subsequently became a teva yom, he is forbidden with regard to kodesh and truma, but if he committed with regard to maisa. If he subsequently became a valkari, he is forbidden with regard to the 3 of them. If he subsequently became a boel nida, he transmits truma to a bed, which is beneath him, like that of which is above. If he subsequently became a zav who experienced 2 discharges, he transmits truma to a mishkav or a moshav, and he requires immersion in spring water, but he is exempt from an offering. If he experienced 3 discharges, he is obligated to bring an offering. If he subsequently became a confined mitzvah, he transmits truma via entry into a covered area, but he is exempt from letting his hair grow wild, from rending his garments, from shaving, and from the birds. But if he was confirmed mitzvah, he is obligated in all of these. If a limb was severed from him, does not have sufficient flesh on it, it trans-truma via contact and via being carried, but it does not trans-truma via an ohel. If it does have sufficient flesh on it, it transmits truma via contact, being carried, and via an ohel. The amount of flesh seems efficient enough is to affect healing. Rabbi Yehuda says, if in one place there is enough flesh to surround it with the width of a weft thread, it is enough to affect healing.
Okay.
A little confusing. That's a mod. Aleph Gimel. If one surrounds his neighbor on 3 sides and fences off the first, second, and third sides, we do not obligate him. Rabbi Yoshi says if he stood up and fenced off the 4th side, we devolve the obligation of all of it upon him. If the wall of a courtyard fell, we obligate him to rebuild it to the height of 4 cubits. Each is presumed to have contributed until the other brings proof that he did not contribute. From 4 cubits and upwards, we do not obligate him, and if we build another wall near it, even though he did not yet place a roof upon it, we nevertheless dissolve the obligation for all of it upon him. If he is presumed not to contribute until he brings proof that he did contribute. We compel him to build a gatehouse and a door for the courtyard. When Shimon ben Gamliel says not all courtyards require a gatehouse. We compel him to build for the town a wall, double doors, and a crossbar. When Shimon ben Gamliel says not all towns require a wall. How long must one be in the town to be treated like one of the citizens of the town? 12 months. However, if he bought a house there, he immediately is treated like one of the citizens of the town. And Shalom. Okay, Daled Vav, Daled Zion. If one consecrated possession, and among them where there's an animal suitable for the altar, either male or female, Rav Eliezer says the male should be sold to those needing burnt offerings, and the female should be sold to those needing peace offerings. The proceeds should be used with the rest of the property for the upkeep of the temple. The Yeshua says the males themselves should be brought as burnt offerings, but the females should be sold to those needing peace offerings. Burnt offerings should be bought with their proceeds, and the rest of the property should be used for the upkeep of the temple. Rabbi Akiva says, I prefer Rabbi Eliezer's view over Rabbi Yeshua's view because Rabbi Eliezer applies his logical method uniformly where Rabbi Yeshua differentiates. Said Rav Papas, I have been taught that both views are correct. Regarding one consecrate explicitly, the Kalaka is according to Rabbi Eliezer, whereas the one regarding consecrates without an explicit designation, the Halakha is according to Rabbi Yeshua. Here we go. If one consecrated possessions among them were things suitable for the altar, such as wines, oils, and fowl, Rabbi Elazar says they should be sold to those needing each particular item, and their proceeds should be used for burnt offerings. But the rest of the possession should go to the upkeep of the temple. Okay. One more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once in 30 days.
Once every 30 days, they would set the price paid by the treasury chamber. Whoever undertook to supply fine flour at 4 saw of a seller, and the price subsequently stood at only 3 sellers for a seller, was supply at 4. But if he undertook to supply at 3 for a sah for a seller, and the price subsequently stood at 4, he must supply at 4, for the temple has the upper hand. Likewise, if the fine flour became wormy, the loss is his. If the wine soured, the loss is his, and he does not receive any money until the altar atones.
Okay.
Okay,
And
great.
we are done. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Good job. So enjoy
We
Shabbos.
see you.
I'll see you Sunday, Mr. Shem.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.